My favorite second quote from this book is in response to kind of like the phrase that everyone says, which is like,
just be yourself.
And she talks about how you probably will never hear her say that, and this is why. Welcome back to my channel. Either you're watching me on IGTV, on YouTube. Today I'm going to be giving you my end of the summer hot girl reading list.
It's a must that I hit. It's a hot girl summer, so you know she got it lit. Know she got it lit. Hot girl summer, so you know she got it lit. Yeah. Know she got it lit. Hot girl summer, so you know she got it.
So you might be wondering,
Toya, it's the end of August. What you talking about? Hot girl summer and the summer reading list.
well, according to Google, the summer doesn't end till September 20th. That's the last official day of summer. So you got time. And I only have 3 books on here. They're really, really good books. One I read, one that I'm halfway through, and one that I'm gonna read before the summer is over. So let's get into it. The first book that I would recommend for the end of this hot girl summer is My Sister the Serial Killer. I hope this is in focus. This is a national bestseller. This is probably one of my favorite books of this year. I finished this book in 2 days, and then I passed it on to my mom, who passed it on to my aunt. All finished the book in less than 48 hours because it is a page turner. This book is about 2 Nigerian sisters, and it's like the traditional story of like the ugly sister, the ugly smart sister, and the beautiful sister who get whatever her heart desires, who and whatever her heart desires, right? And one of them obviously is a serial killer, but it talks about the complicated relationship of sisters that it can be sometimes. I'm an only child, so I know I can't really talk about siblings, but it talks about the complicated relationship of being sisters, and kind of like the bond that they have and the envy that they also have for each other, but also the never-ending love. And it's really good. One of my favorite things I like about it is that it takes place in real time, in that like they talk about Instagram and hashtags, and it's just really, it's like a present day, really good novel. And my favorite quote from this book is, "Besides, no one's innocent in this world. Why? Go up to the maternity ward. All these smiling parents and newborns, murderers and victims, every one of them. The most loving parents and relatives commit murder with smiles on their faces. They force us to destroy the person we really are, a subtle kind of murder." I recommend this to everybody who's looking for a good book to read this summer. So this is the first book on the end of the summer hot girl reading list. Go get this one. So my second book on my end of the summer hot girl reading list is Shannon Boodram's Game of Desire. I hope you can focus. 5 surprising secrets to dating with dominance and getting what you want. So Shannon Boodram is one of the people that I admire, that I follow on YouTube and Instagram. She's a sexologist, a YouTube personality, and she gives a lot of helpful, insightful information on dating, relationships, and all that other stuff. So the Game of Desire is like, I would describe like if a textbook, a fun textbook, and like one of those fun like workbooks that you, or online quizzes that you take about like yourself, or like, are you those personality things, INTP, whatever, right? So if you had like a workbook, a fun textbook, and a cool scientific experiment married together with a little bit of like one of those Vixen books that maybe like tell you about, you know, like how to give head or something. I'm only halfway through, so I don't think she talks about that, but this is what this book is to me. It's like a combination of all those things. So I'm halfway through. I'm at like 140. But what I enjoy the most about this book is that it really teaches you about yourself. She breaks it down with, when I talk about scientific book, like she has a hypothesis kind of. She has 6 women that she works with, and she takes you through the phases of her program on how to date with dominance. And through that, she shares their stories, but she also makes you come along with it. So you are taking the quizzes, you're learning about your attachment style, where you are on the Kingsley scale in terms of your like sexuality. What else did I learn? I learned so much, like even just like from those complicated, more complex things about like your personality and like the things that you like, obviously your love language, but like or apology language. I never really thought about that. And she has a quiz on trying to figure out what your apology language is. She has a quiz on figuring out your attachment style. She also obviously shares these women's stories, which is very encouraging and interesting to see, to understand why we do certain things, why we put out certain parts of ourselves, or the ways that we protect ourselves that may or may not be the most appealing to an outsider or a potential mate, right? So it's just very, very interesting. And so I would recommend this. She talks about like how to be seductive, but more so what I like about the book, and maybe that's just because that's the first half that I read, is just kind of the self-discovery element of it. Like, I'm in a relationship, so I don't know if I'm definitely looking for this to date with dominance, but to kind of be a better partner to myself, more so, like learning about myself, and then how to be a better, by learning about myself and my partner, because I've been making him take the quizzes with me, we learn how to understand each other more and be better partners to each other in all areas, right? Seduction, like, what's your turn on language? So now I know what my boyfriend's turn on language is, and hopefully he'll get turned on more. So my favorite quote from this book, I have two quotes, because I think one of the challenges with dating books, and one of the things that I counted from conversations that I've had with people, and one of the things that I struggle with is just like, it's so annoying that I feel like all dating stuff is catered towards women. And I feel like there's a lot of men who definitely need help in that area. But if you read kind of like the beginning of her book, you will understand that oversupply right now of women in the market. So that's also why I think there's a lot of conversation around it. And unfortunately, I feel like it's still like a man-dominated world. And this book, I think the title can be a little misleading because it talks about games. And I very much so don't think she's telling you to play games. I think she's using the word as empowerment. She's really just talking about how do you learn about yourself so that you can figure out what you want, what you don't want, and what ways you're presenting yourself to the public that you like and that you don't like, that may or may not be attracting the right partner for you. So, favorite quotes from this book. Oh, I just lost my page. All right, I have two. One is kind of like addressing the issue that I just brought up about like how frustrating it can be, I think, as women, that all these books, there's a lot of the books on dating are catered towards women and towards women being better, towards women understanding themselves, and I feel like men need to put in the work. Obviously, that is not anything against Shannon. It's not her goal in life, and her book is really about helping women because she's a woman. These are things that have worked for her and worked for her clients, and so she's just like, this is what works. I don't think she necessarily agrees with it, but that's the way society is. And like I said, there is a mass supply of women, so that's also why dating can seem so hard, and why I think there's a market and demand for books like this for women. But men, y'all need to do the work too. Okay, so my two favorite quotes from this book. The first is from her introduction, and I believe it's page 16. It's Roman numerals. It kind of skips a part, but she talks about kind of like one of the challenges I think when I talk to people about this book, or when I first read it, like,
I don't need a book about dating, or like being a better lover.
And this kind of counteracts that. In other important areas like our careers, finances, and health, we are taught that if we want to excel, we must study, seek out expert guides, and practice proven behaviors, right? And as an intimacy educator, I've made it my duty to help people understand that this formula works wonders on your interpersonal side of life too, right? So that's just kind of like addressing that. Like, we study, we go to school, we go to college, we're told to go to college, we watch cooking shows, we do all those things. So what is wrong with reading a book that makes you a better lover? Men just need to do it too. So my favorite second quote from this book is in response to kind of like the phrase that everyone says, which is like,
just be yourself.
And she talks about how you probably will never hear her say that, and this is why. We have many different versions of ourselves. Our work self, home self, after hour self, hungry self, when no one else is watching self, and the version of self that may have been formed in reaction to past trauma. So which self are people referring to when they share that sentiment? I believe that the only true self is the one someone consistently chooses to be, and that simply points to the fact that you do have a choice. Thus, if who you're choosing to be isn't working, What's so wrong with choosing to become something else? And I thought that was a beautiful quote. All right, my last book on my end of the summer hot girl reading list is More Than Enough by Elaine. I'm not going to butcher her last name. I had an honor of seeing her at CAM maybe at the beginning of summer. Sorry, there's a lot going on today in my neighborhood. I had the honor of seeing her at CAM at the beginning of summer. She did it was like a really great fires. They never play music in my neighborhood. Anyway, it was a really nice fireside chat with one of her former co-workers. I don't remember her name. And it was just, listen, I'm not a memoir person. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I really like novels, and I'm challenging myself to read this memoir because I really enjoyed her talk. I enjoyed kind of the spoilers that she gave during the talk, and I really enjoy her personality that I see, at least digitally, right? I don't know what her real life personality is, although I'm sure it's amazing. I really enjoy the encouragement and the lessons that she talked about that she learns and that she does on her platforms through Twitter and Instagram. And so I'm really interested to learn about her journey to becoming, this, like, she's a New York Times bestseller now because of this book. She used to be the editor at Vogue. She was the second Black editor-in-chief at Condé Nast, and she was she also was the editor for Teen Vogue and stuff like that. So she has amazing career that she really has launched, and she shares a lot about in this book. And so I want to read it. I don't have any favorite quotes because, like I said, I haven't cracked it open. But if you follow me on Instagram, any of my social media, I usually post my books. And when I read this, I'll post it, and I always put my favorite quote. So I usually post my book on social media and then put my favorite quote. So if you just follow me, I'll leave all that information below. You'll eventually discover my favorite quote. So if you like this list, let me know. Comment below. Let me know what book you would add to the Hot Girl Summer reading list. I know I missed some. There's been so many good books this summer. So if you have any suggestions, I can be really ambitious. I'm sure I could read more than 3 books before September 20th if I tried. So if you have any suggestions, please share below so we can all talk about it and add it to our reading list, whether it's for the end of Hot Girl Summer or for the fall, because I feel like the fall is going to be a hot girl fall as well as a hot girl year. Please. Thank you, Megan. Leave links to all these books. In the description. So yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe.